So let me just do here the right connections on the channels. So I'm here live on YouTube and Instagram. All right. Um, I decided to, start it with this first Kung Fu talk. It's going to be like kind of show or something that we can talk and discuss a little bit about Kung Fu, right? We're gonna be talking a little bit about different topics every week. I'm gonna be inviting some other masters every other week. It depends how it goes. Depends how we are going to be, expressing ourselves. And if people like it, and if people don't, if you like, and if you also wants to leave a comment, or if you wants to leave, a question, something that you do like to ask, you feel free to send a direct or a message. We have our page on Facebook. We have our page also on Instagram and YouTube. The YouTube channel, it's more funny, more for added videos. All right, but here we go. For those who doesn't know me yet, I'm Sifuli Weishialu, and I'm going to talk a little bit in this first broadcast about Gongfu application. A lot of people they get misunderstood on applications on Gongfu, right? Because they only think Kung Fu is just about animals, with respect of every different martial arts. Doesn't matter if you're traditional martial arts, Western martial arts, modern martial arts, right? I'm just here to express myself and also to show a little bit of some data that I made a research about, and so we can have a different point of view, right? Um, the first thing that I would like to talk about is I made a research, right, and I find out that 5% of adults that practice martial arts in some point of their lives, uh, only 5% actually practice, right, and 0.5 claim that they have never finished their system. So they started at some point because of life situations such as going to school, going to college, or because of work, or because of some accidents that happen in life. They stop practicing, right. 0.5% never finished their system, so they never ended up going to black belts or black sash, or depending what kind of martial arts, getting to a certificate, getting to finish their studies into martial arts. 2% of these people, they claim that they don't know how to apply their martial arts in the real life threat situation, which is really concerning. 2% doesn't know how to apply. So you finish your system, or you practice, you trust in what you're learning, but you don't know how to apply. It's something like very, very interesting, because if you're going to school, like if you practice with somebody who's certified, you should be able to apply. Doesn't matter what martial arts you are. The problem is not the martial arts, the martial artist. It's not karate, it's not kung fu, it's not taekwondo, it's not boxing, it's not MMA. The problem is actually, the person who actually teaching, or the student is not focused on learning these martial arts, right? So that's a very interesting data that I got. This is from IBS Word. It was taken in 2017. In 2014, there was another study by the West Point. They interviewed 1,000 soldiers that had an experience of combat in Iraq, and they find out that only 20% engaged in hand-to-hand combat. When they asked what their nature of fighting was, 72% said it was a grappling. So they actually had to use grappling into the fight, into the war in Iraq. 21% was fighting with their weapons. So we see like the majority, of course, you are in a war, you're gonna have to use a weapon in order to survive. And this study was made by the West Point. Oh, it was made in West Point by the High Percentage Martial Arts in 2014. Now, when it comes about applications in real fight, I'm going to talk about two other subjects: real fight applications, and I'm going to talk about the philosophy of the fight, which is something like very interesting. I've heard so many things there that's very interesting. Like as I said, like at the beginning of this video, when it comes about being respectful, I do respect everybody's point of view. I was practicing with these people a long time ago, and they said like kung fu is not for fighting. or like you cannot practice kung fu or you cannot apply kung fu in real life. I was like, what do you mean? Why am I wasting my time practicing the martial arts, practicing kung fu and all this time? And then when it comes to a real life situation, and how am I gonna apply what I've learned, right? They say, oh no, because kung fu is gonna be there. Your Wing Chun is gonna be there. You don't need to spar. You don't need to apply because I was like, how can you actually apply kung fu without not applying, without not practice? It's like the same thing. I grab a bicycle. I was like, okay. So I've seen people maybe, riding a bicycle or driving a car, but I play video games and then that makes me a good driver. That makes me a good rider. And that's one of the things that made me thought. It was like, oh no, you're very traditional school. You're super traditional. The tradition comes first and everything. But when your master, your sifu, your instructor, your sensei limitates yourself of not applying what you've learned, it's kind of dangerous because how are you going to apply something that you never used before? And that's when we see those kind of crooks, those kind of people, they think that they are master, and you don't put yourself into a position of sparring, into a position of a simulation, right? Because you're doing a simulation of a situation, and when you don't put yourself into that point, and then you expect, and then you expect that magically, kung fu is going to be there, karate is going to be there. It's kind of scary because people get hurt, and then people sometimes get, they lost their lives because of those kind of crooks that doesn't teach the proper way of defending themselves. And that's one of the reasons why I also stopped practicing in that place, because they thought, they limited too much themselves of saying, no, you cannot compete because it's part of the tradition. No, you should not compete. You call yourself a sifu. What happened if you lose in a competition? And then you come to yourself and think, okay, if I lose in a competition, is because I didn't practice properly, or because there's always somebody better than you. You cannot just be like a crybaby and losing a competition and say, oh, you know what, I'm never going to compete anymore. And that's not the whole purpose. It's not winning. The whole purpose is actually learning experience and meeting, making new friends. That's what happened every time when I go to competitions. Even if I lose or if I win, I always make good friends, and that's the whole purpose. Meeting another different styles. Doesn't matter if it's Chinese styles. For those who practice kung fu, or if it's Japanese for karate or taekwondo. There's always something else to learn from different people, and that's unfortunately why this kind of crooks, they close your mind, so we can only see this because they think that they have the gospel truth martial arts. If you practice somebody else, you're a traitor. If you want to look for more experience, more experience, you are considered a traitor too, which is how you want to improve yourself. You want to improve your martial arts. You want to improve how you going to be able to defend yourself. And when you limitate yourself, you just look into just one point, and that's it. And how can you expand? How can you experience yourself? How can if what you're learning is actually for you? Because if you think about it, when you practice a tao or a kata, you do them, the simulation fighting movements, but you don't know if that movement is actually for you. You're not going to be expert if, for example, in our system, we have approximately between 30 to 25 taolus, something like that. Okay. And so it's a variety of movements. But when you apply those movements, when you practice those movements, and if you don't apply, how am I gonna know? If I'm good in kicking, or side kick is good for me, or front kick is good for me, or like maybe the tiger style or snake style, right? And that's one of the things. Like, you're gonna come into a fight situation when somebody maybe starting to steal you, or do something bad with those who likes you, and then you're gonna come your Bilma stance, and then you're gonna be like that. Okay, come, and then the guy threw a hook. But guess what? You only been practicing Pak Sao, the whole, the whole hokey pokey kung fu for how long? And then the guy threw you a hook or whatever movement, an uppercut, and you only do a Pak Sao for what, for 3 5 months or 6 months or whatever movement you've been learning in your school that limitates yourself of not applying, and you're gonna end up getting your butt beat up, and which is like really 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 bad. You don't need to necessarily be going to school to challenge people. You can just simply make martial arts friends. That's why in competitions we make friends. you know I have the opportunity to practice with several different people, have the experience had experience to practice with people from MMA, having this different perspective of people on the MMA point of view, from jiu-jitsu, from Jeet Kune Do, for Muay Thai, for Kung Fu, Karate. I think Karate was my favorite one. Was my friend Sensei Kevin from Boston, and I send my greetings to him if he's been watching this video. But yeah, I had the opportunity of experiencing different martial arts and see how other people, right, they see different perspective, these different point of views of how they apply for capoeira too, which is like very interesting. The way that they move around and they do their leg movements, their hand movements, and I was blessed with that. Not that I'm expert in fighting, but calling myself a Sifu, I can definitely guide my student and say, hey, this is the path. That's how you have to practice, and that's how you have to experience yourself in case of a real life situation. Because when it comes to practicing, we have our trainings for competitions, which is just point sparring or a continuous sparring when it comes to Sanda as well. So the main goal is just make a KO or win for points. But when it comes to apply for a real life, when a real life threat situation is layoff surviving. So it's not anymore about just focus about points, or it's about surviving. You need to get out of that fight alive, and that's one of the things that I would like to implement in here in this video. You must have to apply what you know, because if you limit yourself just looking for yourself and say, okay, I know this but I cannot apply this in perspective of fighting because seafood told me not to apply, because it's too dangerous, like they say, like the place that I practiced before. Oh no, Wing Chun is too dangerous, we don't use Wing Chun. It's like being unrespectful with other arts, or actually calling yourself a fool. Because okay, martial arts can be dangerous, but when you say that you don't apply, you don't let your students apply, first is because maybe you don't know how to apply, and you don't know how the guidance of teaching your student how to actually properly do it, because you have no experience of doing it. Or I don't know, like it's like kind of very confusing, like when you see people like with this mentality of not practicing fighting, you don't have to be aggressive, you just have to be confident on yourself, and how your student and how yourself are going to be confident with something that you've been practicing Tao loose, you've been practicing forms, but at the same time um you never put yourself into the position of actually applying. Because one thing is practicing a mechanical thing, which is called drills, right? Wing Chun and Kung Fu, there's a lot. I don't know the names of in karate and taekwondo, but I can talk myself by the experience in Kung Fu that I had, or some other arts. So we have the paksao. Imagine, like doing paksao, you do your pak, and then your partner do the chijum chui or the sampat, depending how you want to call. And you know that he's not gonna get out of your center line. But when you have an experience where you don't know if your opponent is gonna throw you a kick, when you are not training to see if your opponent is actually gonna throw you a hook, an uppercut, or maybe I don't know, some those crazy fancy kicks, it's like you're gonna probably gonna get your ass beat up. That's why when I see Western martial arts talking about boxing, kickboxing, talking about Muay Thai, the guys they destroy MMA, they destroy. They don't care. They're gonna go over there. They're gonna do their job. They're gonna make sure that they protected themselves and they beat the other guy up, and that's it. And they're gonna get out because they practice every single class. They know their forms, they know their drill, they have their combos, and at the end of the fight, they normally practice their sparring. And that's why they're so good fighting. And that's why so many hokey pokey kung fu masters, they come in and say, okay, yeah, we're really good. That's their forms are amazing, they're all sharp. When it comes to applying, do they really know how to apply that? Do they really know how to apply the paksao into a life situation, a bansao, or uh, a Buma or a Toima, whatever they call. Think about it. Like whenever you're gonna sign up, I'm not discouraging you to practice traditional martial arts. Just to look for lineage, to look for guidance, to look for actually these people really know what they're teaching, because it's really beautiful. There's people, they have tradition, they have lineage, they have so many things beautiful, But at the end of the month, he's just like, oh, what is your membership? Oh, where is your tuition? Give me your tuition. But they don't care if what kind of student you are. They don't care who you are, where you came from. They don't do a background check. The only thing that they do is about taking the money, and that's a lot of what a lot of crooks, what they normally do nowadays. Not offending other masters, but just having a really conversation with you and explaining like my point of view on different subjects about application. There was this book. I actually have the book somewhere around here. Oh yeah, I read this book. I really like to read books, and this book it's called. Let me see here because it's paused. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm back. Sorry, my AirPod. I actually was supposed to use my AirPod, but I forgot somewhere. Yeah. This book it's called Police Kung Fu Combat, right? And I don't know if you guys can hear me because I think I'm having interference for a second. Yeah, I think now I'm fine. I think now I'm fine. So what I was talking about is 1 second. Let me fix this thing right there. Okay, I have this book. I love to read books. I have several. I have a collection of books and movie collections. But this book's called Police and Kung Fu, and the Personal Combat Handbook on Taiwan National Police. It's actually the reapplication on Kung Fu. We see here a lot of chinas. I really like not to learn techniques from books, but to like the perspective and the philosophy of what the author what actually is trying to teach. This book was written by Lo Man Khan, which he's a Wing Chun master. He was actually a police instructor, and I only find out about that he was a police instructor. After reading the book, I met him. I read his biography. I actually practiced with one of his students here in Miami a long time ago. Great instructor, great master, great Wing Chun master. But yeah, in this book, there's a couple of things that is uh, very interesting things that I actually read in this book. I'm trying to find here because I make notes. Yeah, let me try to find. Yeah, I don't know where I put it in the notes, but that's really good. They're talking about the police application, right? And the police, what they say here. Damn, I forgot where I put the thing. Yeah, right here. So the effective martial arts techniques rely upon a spontaneous instinct reflex with movements natural of human physiology, serving as a foundation. That's the phrase that actually I wanted to bring from this book. Because when it comes about application, you have to. It's really good. One of the things that I make my students to learn is about a little bit about anatomy. How do you actually apply the chinas? Because people they keep trying movements, trying. Sometimes they ended up hurting themselves because they don't know how to apply, how to do the movements properly. And it's very important for the students and for the practitioner to actually know a little bit about anatomy, and the physiology of the body movement. And yeah, and that was another thing also from this book. This book here I have been reading. I don't know where I put the other notes that I have from that book. I have more things about that, but I'm not gonna be going back and forth to that book to try to talk about. The Tao of Jeet Kune Do. This is very famous. Bruce Lee. He's the master. I think everybody who ever practice or get into martial arts, doesn't matter what art you come from or you go to, you always refer to Bruce Lee. Everybody believe that practice martial art ever heard, doesn't matter if it's like Western MMA or whatever. One of the things that I got from this book when I read was like there's this phrase where it says when there's a freedom from mechanical condition, there's a simplicity. Life is a relationship in the whole. So when it comes for what does the author, in my perspective, in my point of view, as a martial artist, my interpretation, I'm saying, right? So the mechanical movement condition is getting out of this thing called only drills and applying the drills into a real fight. Because a lot of people, a lot of those hokey pokey masters, they think, oh, you know what? You're gonna fight like Ip Man. If you watch the movie 1, 2, 3, whatever, you see like the real fight, like the fight when he fights against the Ten Masters. Is really funny because people think that a fight is gonna be like that. You are untouchable master, you're a Wing Chun master, or whatever master martial arts you are, and it's gonna all the movements are gonna come right in place. You're gonna do your punch, and then you're gonna block your tan sao, and then you block, and then you do your lap sao or whatever your pon sao, and then you keep doing and practicing and beating the other guy, and then at the end you're gonna like a hero, you're gonna finish and walk away, and that's actually not how it is. We see the MMA fights. This guy, they're actually real masters. Or not some of them are real masters, some of them are just like black belt instructors. But you see, like, they practice every day and they still are not, they are confident of what they're doing into the ring, but at the same time, the octagon, so I'm sorry, but at the same time, they don't know what's going to happen over there because the other guy is practicing as much as he's practicing in his side. And that's the beauty of martial arts. Doesn't matter what style. Some you see with different backgrounds. You see people from Muay Thai, you see people from Jiu Jitsu, you see people, mixed martial arts, which have a little bit of some arts. But at the end of the day, it's not about limiting yourself just to punch in the back, or just to practice in the mukjong if you practice Wing Chun, or to practice, I forgot the name of the thing that they do on karate. They practice the wooden thing. It's not only limiting about yourself doing that, but limiting yourself of getting what you know and apply what you know. That's what we spoke a little bit before. There was another phrase from the same book, from the Tao of Jikundo. Relationship, it's understanding. It is a process of self-revelation. Relationship is a mirror in which you discover yourself. So how are you going to discover yourself if you don't have the relationship between you and your opponent? You have a relationship between you and your partner when you practice the drills, when you practice kung fu, if you do the duliang, which we call, it's a fighting scene. It's a fighting. It's a pretending fighting on kung fu system, right? I don't know how they call, if they have the same thing on karate and the other martial arts, but talking about the kung fu. Okay, I know you're gonna kick, and then I'm gonna block, and then I'm gonna punch. You're gonna block. Okay, that works for seeing, but how you gonna implement or put that relationship that you have with your partner into a real life situation if you don't practice, if you don't really apply, right? With you don't use for fighting, for sparring. You don't have to go over there, like, okay, your instructor teach you like to poke the eye or maybe to kick the balls of your opponent. You don't have to do that. Your partner, okay, you have to be respectful, but in the street, you gotta survive. I don't know, I really do respect everybody's point of view, but anyways, I really believe in the law of surviving. Whenever you go to the street, you gotta make sure you or your student and everybody who's learning the martial arts is actually gonna apply it properly, right? That's the things of the of of the books that I would like to bring into attention. I really like this one better. This second quote, right? The relationship is the understanding, because relationship is actually everything. If you don't have a relationship, with somebody that you love, how you gonna know this person? It always comes about understanding, about talking, and about involving yourself. That's how you have to do when you practice martial arts. Is involving yourself to the situation. If you're not used to, many things are gonna happen. You're gonna get scared. You can get excited. You can get very anxious, and then you're gonna forget your forms, and then you're gonna forget, you know, um, your movements. And that's one of the things. This master, when they teach you those kind of things, that you're not supposed to apply, you're not supposed to spar, you're not supposed to compete, because they never had the experience of actually applying and putting into real life whatever they learn. And I'm saying they can be amazing in forms, they can be amazing doing their katas, their taolus, but when it comes to, like, actually, what not the majority of the people matters when it comes to self-defense, they don't know how to teach. And that's one of the things that really concern me, because if I'm teaching my student, right, and if he goes no home, he go home after class with the hokey pokey BS that I taught. And if I teach, of course, I'm giving a hypothetical way situation. And then he got beat up because, first, I limited himself of not practicing. Second, because I didn't teach him properly how to apply. He just do the same movement over and over again without explaining anything, right? He just let him doing for like months, maybe years. And then he got beat up, or maybe he died in the street because he didn't. I wouldn't. I honestly, I wouldn't be in peace anymore. I would have feel myself. I would just like feel like I'm a horrible person. Like, how am I gonna put this self trusting and paying me fees every month, trusting that he's gonna learn something, that I'm gonna be protecting himself, and then just put into the situation where later, oh yeah, that was his fault. He didn't practice properly. It might be his, but that's your job as an instructor, as a C4 master, to make sure that your students are learning properly. Of course, there's lazy people. They just want a belt. They just want a certificate. It all depends, like the system, how you are actually teaching and implementing your martial arts, expressing your martial arts, right? I One of the things that I came out, three steps for application: intention, action, and reaction. That's the three steps. Intention, that's when you plan to um, to have the movement, right? When you think about it and say, okay, I'm gonna punch this way. That Bruce Lee, he in the movies, he one of the things that he said, don't think, feel, of course, but you have to have a game plan. You can just simply go into a fight, throwing movement. Sometimes you don't know your opponent. If people from MMA, you keep watching the other fighters video to see where their weaknesses and their strong movements. But when you come to actually knowing the intention, is like what is your what's it called? What is your best movement? And how can you find out if you don't practice, if you don't spar, if you don't have the opportunity of having friendly fights with your martial art brothers? The action is actually when you throw the movement. When the movement is like when the movement get outside of your mind and go into your goal, which is your target, and your reaction. That's the outcome. Did you actually hit your opponent? Did you actually was able to block the kick or block the punch? That's things that comes out into a study that I'm actually developing. And right, and a lot of people, they are more concerned about like just like learning movements instead of developing what they have. That's why I like the philosophy of Jikundo, of grabbing your tools and sharp your tools rather than be learning and learning and learning so many different kind of things. We have also, right, the philosophy of Kung Fu. That's the next topic, which is very interesting. How people, they only care. We spoke the whole video pretty much about application, but how do you actually apply all these things into your real life? You're not gonna be walking around just like fighting against people. But the biggest concern is just like how do you actually apply Kung Fu into your life? How do you actually apply the not only saying the fighting method, but just the fighting philosophy? How you gonna grab the endurance and the motivation that you have in class, and maybe using yourself to make to become a better person, or actually doing being promoted in your company, in your school. Like that's all those things. And a lot of people, they only think about just application, fighting, kicks, punch, taolus, and they don't come to study about the philosophy. They don't come to study about the hard work, the definition of kung fu, which is hard work, right? And people, they don't actually go into that much. They just go practice, okay, get medals and trophies, but at the end of the day, like, okay, they kind of have the basics, but they not the study. Like, when I say study, that's one of the things that I always tell my students. When you do kung fu, you have to make sure that you study, you're not practicing, because the practice is a repetition of motion where you don't think. You just keep doing and doing and doing. When you study, you actually grab a book, you actually grab something, and then you analyze for yourself, does this really works for me or not? Because there's movements that does not work for you but does work for others. If you think about it, for example, is the law of adaptation. That's how I call Ip Man. He was short. He was approximately 165, 155, if I'm not mistaken. If you practice your bonsai in the Silam Tao, okay, if you do your bonsai like this, and you're 165 and you're fighting against a guy, I mean, 165 centimeters, or meters, I'm sorry. He was probably 5.5, I think, 5.5 to 5.5, right? When it comes about, one of my friends is just texting, but yeah, when it comes about, yeah, hi Anderson, just saying hi to you. Okay, so when it comes about application, for example, somebody punched you, the guy's like what, 6.5. If you practice your bounce out like this all day, okay, you're gonna have to adapt your movement to apply your bounce out high, or some other movements that you learn. That's the law of that adaptation in the real application. So that's why it's very important to apply and to practice your kung fu in the real life, and learning the philosophy and studying the philosophy and actually applying the kung fu, the karate, the taekwondo into a position where you going to succeed in your life, and use the same, like you see very good athletes in the US Kung Fu Wushu team, the Brazilian. I know a lot of people from the Brazilian Wushu team, great people, very hard workers, and that's the same foundation that you have to get from your martial arts class and apply a into your real life, right? And just for a conclusion of this video, right, when it comes at about applications, it's pretty much all about expressing yourself, right? It's all about expressing yourself. How am I going to teach somebody who likes to express themselves in a way that is wrong? For example, if we there was a really good fighter, he was my favorite fighter, Anderson Silva. We know that the right way to fight is not putting your hands up, but he was always putting his guards down, and he was succeeding during fight. You saw how many times he beat the other guy up, and it was amazing his fights. But at the end of the day, like, it was like wrong or right. Like, there's a lot of people, they have like this taboo where people say, "Oh yeah." I get it also into what's it called, into a debate with my kung fu masters friends, saying, they say, "Oh yeah, animal fists, snake, tiger, or dragon, that's not for fighting. That's just, you're gonna use the energy of that movement into a fight, but you're not actually gonna do snake style. You're not gonna do into a fight frog style, or whatever they want to call animal style that they have." And then I get into a point where, like, so why am I wasting my time practicing for so many years, practicing for so yeah, that was Fei Long. Yeah, that's my one of my Sihins, Sifu Liu Long. Greetings to you, Sifu. Yeah, he was my Sihin. He practiced with me in with my master, right? Yeah, he was on one. He was my Sihin, just so you know. But anyways, yeah, he was talking about Fei Long. But that's the thing. How you gonna put, like, why you gonna waste your time practicing like all the animals taolus, to put it into a fight, when they say, "Oh no, you wanna fight only Sanda or Sanshao." But why not join into the Sanda class, to the Chinese boxing school, and learn just Chinese boxing? You're gonna be punching, kicking, doing shuai jiao, the whole 9 yard every day. Why you gonna have to learn something else and then with a different path? That's what I think when people are losing, actually. And I want to be very respectful with these people who have a different point of view as I do. I really do respect it. That's their philosophy. But that's the thing that I actually, contradict this kind of people. Like, how are you going to apply those movements into a real life, or into a application, if you're not supposed to use tiger style into a fight? So you're doing all that movement, all the snake movement, or leopard, or whatever. And when you're going to comes to fight, just punch, 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 punch. Okay, what about all that movements that I've been practicing for so many years, right? You get into a point where, like, that's why I think it's very contradictory, this point of view. I'm going to talk more specifically about that subject in a different video. I don't want to get into this, for future videos. But that's pretty much it, guys. And that's my thoughts about. I really think you should use animal styles into a fight, but you have to apply and you have to practice, because if you don't practice, if you don't apply what you have learned, it's not gonna go up. It's not gonna be effective. You just pretty much gonna be throwing movements and putting yourself in a situation where you can get hurt. All right, but that's pretty much it for today's video. I don't like to talk too much. Yeah, it's been half an hour already, and I actually wanted to make something like just 50 minutes. But I really like, for those, I say my greetings for everybody who been watching the video. Thank you for everybody. Thank you, Newsy. Thank you, Sifu, Felipe. Thank you, Anderson, for being watching. All my other Kung Fu friends who came here. And please share your thoughts, share your opinions, and send me questions. Ask me about anything that you guys would like to know for future videos. I'm gonna be in the Brazilian channel next week, same time, right? And for those who doesn't speak English fluently, so I can talk to my Brazilian friends, my Kung Fu brothers. I have so many Kung Fu brothers because our school, the majority of the schools are in Brazil, and I have so many martial arts friends in Brazil as well. So I send all my greetings, all my warm hugs to everybody. Thank you very much for watching, and see you guys next week.